Lance von Stade.
What's going on?
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, cruising.
So yeah, I'm basically a student journalist here on campus, and just trying to get people's stories out, especially alumni like you who've been really active in the community with Adjusting Ninjas, with Athletes on Purpose, and even teaching here at Life West and teaching at San Francisco State. Is that where you're teaching?
University of San Francisco. I'm a resident minister over there. I don't teach there. I mean, there's some facilitation happening.
Yeah, right. And similar concept. So just wanted to pick your brain a little bit, get to know you a little bit better, and see what you've learned through your life experience that we can really share with students and share with the larger community.
Cool. Yeah, I'm happy to share.
Awesome. So my first question is, it's about grit. Because you're somebody that I think has a lot of grit, and I define grit as something as passion and persistence. I feel like you have a lot of passion, and you've also been very persistent. And so I'm wondering if there's any life circumstances or past experiences that you've had that you feel like have kind of guided you towards that passion and persistence.
Grit and nasty go in the same sentence for me. Like every time I hear the word grit, I think nasty too. So I don't know if that's a good thing, but passion and persistence are definitely, I think, things that have been on my core value list for a long time. And I immediately just think of the people that I've been surrounded by. Those who have surrounded me have always been pushing the boundaries of pace and quality.
And those are like family members, employees, or employers?
Yeah, these have been... even from when I was an athlete in high school, like we were a competitive cross-country team. I was a cross-country runner, so you want to talk about persistence and keeping pace. There was always a person on my team that was slightly better than me, and that held me accountable to continually growing with that person and never plateauing, like always having someone to kind of chase a little bit, but not competing with that person in a sense of wanting to beat them to knock them back, but more of like the Latin root of the word competere, which means to strive together. And so I know that when I'm competing against someone who's slightly better than me, I'm going to be better than them for a moment. And when I become better than them, that pulls them to outdo me, which again builds my own accountability. So it's hard to compete with yourself and not plateau over long periods of time. And that's been proven through team sports or even having an individual athlete work out with other individual athletes, because that competition will help people strive together.
And that accountability, right, from the larger group.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's been in sports, it's been in my professional setting as an athletic trainer, being surrounded by people who were smarter than me, better than me, and luckily for me, humble and willing to teach and allow me to come up the ranks with them and show me where they've gone, kind of knock down doors for me, blaze paths for me, and allow me to make a ton of mistakes in a pretty safe environment. So that didn't stop getting to chiropractic school. I mean, I've been kind of attached with Brett Jones for years now, Josh Kaya, Paulo Feely, Jordan Fairley, just people who are always trying to push themselves. It's not being better than each other, but being better than the person we were yesterday. And at the same time, a lot of us are ex-athletes and competitive, and it's like, well, I'm not going to necessarily just be better than you, but I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to try to do what you just did a little bit better, knowing that you're going to come right back with it. So that environment I always have thrived with, and now working at the Source Chiropractic with Brett, with Josh, with Jordan, it's the same environment. We're always constantly trying to, how can I make a bigger impact on our community than you? And not for the sake of being the best, but knowing when I up the bar, someone else is going to up that bar. And when we have a culture of growth and learning that is held accountable by the group and spurred by our passion and our persistence, it's where we know that what we're doing is going to have a long lasting reach on our community. So we're stoked.
Yeah, and like in a way, it's almost like you took that kind of athletic mindset that you got from running cross country of the way I like to term it is less than, greater than, equal to. So you need somebody less than you so you can teach them, somebody greater than you so you can strive to be them, and somebody who's at your level so you can bounce ideas off and keep striving forward in that way. And so you kind of took that concept from athletics and then are using that in the office in chiropractic in making an impact in your larger community.
Are we now?
No, that's what that's.
Yeah, absolutely. Like. Yeah, that's been definitely in the thesaurus with how we've seen chiropractic. That is our new sport. That is what we're training to do now.
Yeah.
The art is something that can be trained.
Beautiful. I guess I kind of define luck as opportunity and also preparation. And I feel like you're somebody who has maybe been lucky just looking at, what you've done, and specifically your work with Olympic athletes, the water polo team and men's volleyball team. So I wonder what circumstances precipitated that, or if you could talk a little bit about how you've prepared to be so lucky.
Yeah, well, like I said before, I had mentors who were willing to kind of knock doors down for me. And there is a level of preparation you have to have when that door opens. Are you ready to walk in? And I had worked my ass off leading up to being an athletic trainer who could graduate with my undergrad degree and have enough experience coming straight out of the degree to be able to be kind of tapped to come up with the national team. And I didn't work with the Olympic team because the Olympic team is only decided months before the Olympics. I worked with the national team, the women's national team for water polo. So we went to a couple world championships, worked with the world championship teams. But I worked in 2009, 2010 with that team, and I had just graduated in 2007 with my undergrad. 80%.
That was San Francisco State, or?
That was Long Beach State.
Long Beach State.
Yeah, and as athletic trainers, 80% of them have master's degrees.
Yeah.
And I just had my bachelor's, and through some luck of knowing some people who knew some people, I got invited to a wedding, sat down next to the athletic trainer of the national team. She was going to go to chiropractic school. And we had a conversation. She's like, I'm looking for somebody. If you're interested, you sound like you have the right mindset. And she knocked that door down for me and brought me up.
Wow.
And
what was that mindset? Could you qualify that?
From the conversation that we had, it was a lot about holism. And in the athletic training community, at least 10 years ago, that wasn't being taught. I remember my mentor, who was a PT and an ATC, Dan Bailey, had given me a DVD by Gary Gray, and it was called Kinetic Reaction Function or something like that. And it was like this new idea, the kinetic chain. And it's crazy now to think about. But I remember at the time being like, whoa, really? Is it all really connected? And luckily I had that experience my 1 or 2 semesters before graduating, in order to be able to keep up with the conversation that she was having of like kinetic chain, holism, representing and respecting other professions in a multidisciplinary setting, how to interact with those people. It's a skill set you have to work at the highest levels of sport. And I had been lucky. I had been prepared enough to watch those DVDs, memorize them, and start teaching them, because I was the president of the sports medicine club in undergrad. So I had built a little bit of a accountability piece of, I need to have a position where I'm teaching so that the stuff that's coming in, I have a place to integrate that. And I had prepared enough to when the opportunity came, I could step into it. And that isn't to say that I was ready for the bigness of that, because I was only 24 or something. And there's an Eric Thomas quote I really love, which is, your talent will take you places that your character can't keep you. And my talent as an athletic trainer, I had prepared so much to get to that point. I was ready, and I was at that national team level. But my character, which was me still being basically the overworked, underpaid, volunteer, like social undergrad student, had just got out of school and hadn't been able to develop myself as an adult, as a professional, having been through some of the grinding of building a career. And because of that, like, I had some significant challenges as an athletic trainer there. And that was like a major component of me deciding to go back to more school. Was, okay, I have way more to learn about this. Like, obviously I've gotten to a position where I'm like able to kind of keep up, but I didn't feel like I was thriving. I felt like I was overwhelmed every day. And man, just such an incredible learning experience, that feeding back into it, coming through chiropractic school with that experience under my belt, coming back in and now cruising through that program with that same mindset of understanding that I can't just develop my talent.
Right.
I have to be living in a way that's congruent, effective, efficient, and sustainable, so that when I do create these opportunities for myself, that I'm not feeling just bombarded and stressed and not being able to enjoy the moment, but also providing value and experiencing the joys of the experiences that we're having.
Yeah, huge. And do you feel like you you cultivated that character in chiropractic school? Was that like one of the pieces towards that cultivation of the character that allowed you to really embrace those opportunities and not get overwhelmed by them?
There's been a couple tools and a couple key individuals. I mean, my wife is my mentor when it comes to, and my accountability partner when it comes to living a life that is sustainable. And you know, I might be out crushing all this stuff, and I come home and she's like, "How was your day?" And I can be like, "It was incredible." And she's like, "You look super tired." Okay, thank you. You're like, I appreciate that feedback. If I don't hear that, then I don't know. You know, I'll just be like, boom, 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 boom. I don't look in the mirror too much. I like brush my teeth and I'm out. And so she's been just a lifesaver and a life builder. I love working with her to kind of design the life that we want, and helping me stay in touch with like why all the hard work is worth it. Because the work itself is so nourishing that it can be easily just like pulled into that and this self-cycling projects and things. And plus the community is so amazing. But so she is the big piece at home, keeping me accountable, keeping me on point and on the why. And then there's an individual named Dr. Justin Jobelius who introduced me to nonviolent communication and Marshall Rosenberg.
Yeah.
And that was the defining moment of where I finally felt like I had a training program that I could do to develop my character and to understand why I had made certain decisions in my life, to break apart the pieces that were building up to critical moments in my life. And once I could break them apart and look at them under a microscope, I can see them coming so much further in advance now that I can start to build strategies to get my needs met before those needs become suicidal expressions and I become, you know, irrational or start making rash decisions that aren't going to serve the bigger vision of my life. So, yeah.
That's huge. Thanks for that. I love NVC, nonviolent communication. So that's awesome. That's such an integral part in you know, your evolution, so to speak.
And as a person, and I mean as a chiropractor, I can't think of a better tool to have to be working on my internal dialogue. And the way I describe it is that is innate's language. So NVC to me is like my Google translator for innate intelligence talking to me.
Yeah.
And through what I notice, my feelings, or what I notice through my senses, the emotional state that comes up is now a compass to my needs, as opposed to just an emotional state like I must be having a bad day. You know, there's so many systems that deal with this. NVC to me has just been the most plain, simple, actionable, and congruent with the way that I want to live when it comes to giving, loving, and serving out of abundance. Like that is the basically the principles of NVC. If you're not doing those things, then you're no longer doing it. Then you're just using some type of strategy language.
Right.
But it's NVC comes from the why, which is giving for the sake of giving, not doing it because that's what good boys and girls do. Finding needs and filling them, and valuing others' needs equal to your own, not giving up or giving in on your own needs. You know, and when you do those two things, you're already going to have such an amazing life.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even matter what words you use. When needs are met, stuff's all good, you know? So.
Yeah, or what type of career you choose or whatever you're doing in the world, like that is like a core character trait, right?
Yeah.
You're able to navigate from that place that enhances everything. I want to go back briefly to something you said earlier about being effective, efficient, and sustainable.
Yeah.
That's something that I feel like everybody in chiropractic could use a little bit more of.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering what you've either done personally or doing in the larger community to kind of create more of that efficiency and more of that sustainability.
Yeah. For me, it's helpful to define what they are, because it can become just a tagline that people hear. Effective, efficient, sustainable, 3 awesome things. But to me, I think those are those 3 things in particular are principally intertwined with each other. And if one of them drops, then none of them function. And effectiveness is, I think, connected to intention. So do you actually do what you intend to do? And effectiveness is kind of an easy way to put it is like that's what gets you paid. Like that's what someone is expecting of you, and you're gonna live up to it and have the effect, the result. The efficiency is how do you maintain that same result, but decrease the time, energy, and money that it takes to get there. And the sustainability is, are you replenishing the resources that it takes in order to maintain that effectiveness, or are you chopping away at the resources in order to maintain it? Because you can save a ton of money and be really effective if you're, for instance, building your own website, which I've tried a couple times.
Me too.
And man, it is so much more efficient for me to save all the money to build the website, but I'm spending so much time, perhaps losing sleep, to where I am depleting my resource of health and focus, and it's not sustainable. I just can't be a website developer full-time while being a full-time chiropractor, full-time dad, full-time everything else, you know? So that balance, I think, is a constant question. And another thing is, in context of chiropractic, is can I be effective with my adjustment? Can I be efficient to where I can see a lot of people and without losing the effectiveness of my adjustment and my care? And am I doing it sustainably? Whether that's how many hours a week am I working and can I sustain that lifestyle, or each adjustment, am I giving an effective force that has an equal and opposite force that we call the adjustment reaction force, just like a ground reaction force? Can your body absorb an adjustment reaction force that one time without having a macro trauma or over time accumulating micro traumas? And that's where I've been really obsessed with the movement of the chiropractic adjustment. It has been my new athlete, you know, since I've been out of the athlete world since 2012. After the London Olympics, I came back to school because I trained the judo team over there, in China. And coming back I had done 1 quarter and then gone to China and trained the judo team and done all the sports performance and the injury prevention and the performance training, and I came back with this fervor for chiropractic and the performance aspect of it, and seeing that this same principle of performance training can be applied to the art. It's a high velocity, low amplitude force. There's reaction forces happening. We have not a posture of adjusting, but an actuar, which is the action of posture when it's moving around. And are we doing that using what I believe is really effective and efficient, which is the foundation training principles of anchoring and decompressing, and applying that to the adjustment, to where every adjustment I'm giving is effective, I'm doing it efficiently, because it doesn't take me forever when I identify a biotensegrity structure in the body, and I can analyze the entire body really quickly using a few different methods that we've kind of coined and developed and taking from a lot of different systems that are brilliant, and doing it in a way that's sustainable physically, using NVC emotionally, and living a life that's kind of integrated into the lifestyle of chiropractic through eating, moving, thinking, recuperating, and that's chemically and through all the other things in there. But to say any one piece could be isolated, I think, is to just throw out the holism and the vitalism of human existence. So
and that, to me, that's the beauty of it as a yoga teacher. You know, it's like when you train just the physical movement in that way, you also are integrating the energetic movement, the emotional movement, the mental activity. It's all like funneled in a very specific direction and has, you know, much larger impact through that consistent filtering in that direction. So that's beautiful.
I know you're a yoga guy.
Oh yeah,
yoga's cool, man.
Yeah. Long time yoga guy.
I had a student named Laura Hill who bought me the sutras somewhere in the course of my chiropractic career. Just here you go, and I started reading that, you know, simultaneously with the chiropractic textbook. It's just like, oh wow, this is familiar.
A lot of crossover. Yeah, that's cool. One more question for you. What do you really embrace and love about chiropractic culture, and where do you see room for improvement?
Chiropractic culture?
Yeah.
Oh man, I think that to say chiropractic culture is like to say human culture.
Right. You know? It's so diverse.
Like we were talking about beforehand, I've been to 15 chiropractic colleges in the last year, and we've been to 6 countries with chiropractic for one reason or another in the last year, and it's not the same anywhere I go. You know, and it is, I wouldn't say defined. I don't like to define the culture, but I would like to throw the thesaurus look at it, you know, and there are comparative languages or words that I would use to describe different places differently. So if you come to Life West, I feel like adaptive growth, dynamic, is one example. And I won't label the other schools particularly, but there are schools that I've go to where I don't have that same feeling. It seems more static. It seems more established. And whether that's a good or bad thing, I don't play that game, but it is a different vibe in these different areas that you go. And when I say that different vibe, it's like I feel different when I'm in these different places. And one thing I can say is that there is, in every place we've gone, the reason we're going to these places is that we're doing Adjusting Ninjas training camps on campuses or near campuses. And so we know for a fact that if we're going, we don't just show up.
When you say we, you mean you and Brett Jones.
Dr. Brett Jones,
Yeah.
or there's quite a few people who have traveled to help facilitate these camps.
Okay.
Dr. Jordan Fairley, Josh Kaya, Adrian Vialba, Darren Murphy, Mandy Chan. I mean, there's over 150 facilitators for Adjusting Ninjas in the world, and a lot of them coming out of Life West who have been around the Adjusting Ninjas program for years now. It's been in the works and development for 4 or 5 years, and some people have done it every quarter, and now some of them are 13, 14 or graduated, 13 to 14 quarters or graduated. So these people have gone and traveled and helped facilitate those camps as well. But when we go, we don't show up to do a training camp in the middle of nowhere that hasn't expressed interest. And so what we know is that people are hungry for training to develop themselves, and specifically the art of chiropractic. That is not a technique, because I think there's a distinction between an artist and a technician. And a technician can own a technique like a cook can own a recipe. But the chef can run a kitchen.
Right.
And if an ingredient's not there, the chef knows what is going to replace that. And the food is a representation of the chef's humanness. And I think as a chiropractor, you can be a really amazing technician and have a large impact on a community, but I don't think that's the same as a chiropractic artist. And I think that to say the art of chiropractic and then to not honor that there's going to be different techniques, but the art of chiropractic is the embodiment of the chiropractor performing the work. And the Kairos training culture or Adjusting Ninjas or the Artful Chiropractor, these entities and kind of under the umbrella of Kairos training culture, it's a community of people, hundreds of people that are actively facilitating the work, but over 1,000 people who have taken training camps, have had the online module systems, who have trained themselves, are now sending us stories about how different it is for them to have been in their culture of chiropractic, and then to have joined this global Kairos training culture and to experience this same work, maybe even their same technique, but now with the lens of an artist and the freedom to express themselves in different ways. It opens up a whole nother dynamic to a culture. And I'm really grateful to be a part of it. We, having gone to Europe last spring or whatnot, I think we went to Paris, and then we went to England, and it was at the IFEC College in France, and then at the AECC, the Anglo-European Chiropractic College. Very different perspectives on chiropractic from the institution, and then the student body coming out and training, and the surrounding chiropractors who came in to train. Some of them were looking for something that they thought they were going to find when they got to school, and it wasn't there. Like, I thought we were coming here to deal with health, and we have been learning pathology. Mm-hmm. Where is the health? I thought we were going to come learn how to adjust, and I don't even like to get adjusted anymore because I don't enjoy it. It doesn't feel good. I don't feel healthier doing it. But when we show up and we show them different ways to adjust and different ways to express the art of chiropractic, lights turn on. And then we come home and we give them our 6 month of online modules and our training programs and all the facilitation that goes on online, where we connect them with other schools. To me, it's like neuroplasticity for the culture of chiropractic. You're connecting these little isolated areas of the brain into association areas, and all of a sudden the global culture of chiropractic is starting to connect with the art of chiropractic, not just because we all have the same diagnosis textbook, but it's because, oh wow, you're doing art of chiropractic for the service of humanity. That's what I'm doing too. Wow, yours looks so much different than mine. That's interesting. But even one artist who does paintings is not going to paint two different paintings that look exactly the same, just like two artists are going to paint two different things, and it might look the same, but it will be slightly different. And the example I give is John Martinez is one of the best adjusters I've ever met and experienced, and he has a hand injury that has not stopped his ability to grow and produce amazing art with his hands. And I mean chiropractic art.
Yeah.
But no one else has that specific injury. No one else is going to have a hand like his, so no other adjustment's going to be like his, even though it's top notch. People can train it, but he just has a different shaped brush.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's going to be slightly different. And I've heard chiropractors getting injured and having to make adaptations, and that is art, man. Like making adaptations either because of your own personal experience and what you think works for you and what helps you embody it, what you enjoy doing the most, while maintaining that effectiveness. And then also you have a unique individual that something is going to work for that person, ideally. And it might just be the thing you're best at. It might be the thing you're most passionate about. It might be the thing that they need the most. You know? Kelly Slater shows up to surf a wave with like 9 different boards. So
right, like 9 different paintbrushes, right, or 9 different knives, depending on what type of artist you are.
Exactly. So
we've got 900 different adjustments depending on what's needed at that moment.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you like brought it back to that, because we are all different. We are all individuals, and anytime somebody says to me like, "Oh yeah, I tried a chiropractor," it's like, yeah, you may have tried a chiropractor, but you haven't tried me. Like, I'm a unique artist in the way that I express this broader vision of the whole chiropractic family. So.
Yeah, I love that, and I wish that more people had that sense of I'm a unique artist, as well as the respect of the diversity of other artists in our profession.
Yeah.
And that to me that's not just a chiropractic issue. And that's something that I've said in the past, that anything we find that we think is a chiropractic issue is a chiropractic issue and is an issue of humanity at large.
Yeah.
Unity with respect to diversity is something touted by the World Congress of Chiropractic Students, which some schools don't even allow to be on campus for one reason or another. And that message of unity with respect to diversity, the relationships that have been forged, the conversations and the understanding of different perspectives, very different perspectives in some cases, but the respect for each other and the willingness to understand, that is evolution of human consciousness.
Totally.
And I just read Elon Musk's biography. There's a huge section on chiropractic inside of it, which was really cool.
Yeah, the first whole intro.
Yeah,
basically.
And within that intro, it talked about him as a teenager and his mission that he developed as a youngster, already talking about it only makes sense for us to stop focusing on answers and start asking better questions. And in order to ask better questions, I think we need to be evolving human consciousness. So it only makes better sense to evolve the global, like collaborative human consciousness in order for us to ask better questions. That is his, or that when he was a teenager, that was his mission.
And it still seems representative.
Seems
what
like
he's
it.
Doing these days. Yeah.
And that to me is what I wish. Not even what I wish. That is what I embody in chiropractic. That is my mission in chiropractic, is unity with respect to diversity. Not because it's just chiropractic, because I said I think as chiropractors do that, we will evolve and we will hold our communities to higher standards by leading by example in respecting the diversity of every human that comes into contact with us, regardless of whether they have differing opinions, differing beliefs, differing techniques, all of that kind of stuff. When you respect it, you learn more about it, and when you learn more about others, you learn more about yourself. Dan Murphy has this term called psychosclerosis. The hardening of your mind.
Of your mind, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that when we can maintain that semi-permeable membrane and still like have some barriers to protect our identity and our beliefs, but allow some things to diffuse in and out to continue to grow and learn more about our world.
Yeah, and I find the more centered you are in your own principles, in your own beliefs, actually the more permeable you are, like the more able you are to allow differing influences and allow different experiences. But actually when your core values and your core center is not strong and rooted, then you tend to be a little bit more rigid and not want to let other things in because you don't feel really centered in your own beliefs and values.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. One side of the spectrum or the other, you're so rigid that you don't move, or you're so scattered that nothing can hold on to you. Like, you have no foundation for anyone. When you have that biotensegrity, to me, is one of the most stable and movable structures in nature, like the human body. You know, that to me is it's a principle. So being able to have compression and structure with tension and distributing that proximal stability of your principles before distal mobility of going and finding new information.
Exactly.
I think that's a principle of the body, it's a principle of the mind, it's life.
Yeah, it's life. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So how can people get in touch with you? What's the best place for people to reach out if they want more information, if they want to connect with you and what you're doing?
There's a couple ways. Lance@adjustingninjas.com is currently an email that people can reach me if they're looking for chiropractic training. That is a 6-month online module system that we travel and do training camps for. If you're looking for training, I don't know if I'm telling the camera or something, but if they're looking for training, go to adjustingninjas.com. There's a schedule there, and if we're not coming to your school or your city or something, then they can just contact us like most people have, and we can arrange to schedule. We just arranged for Melbourne, Australia in March. The next weekend is in Auckland, New Zealand. So there is no corner of the globe we're not going to touch. If there's chiropractic there, we will come and do a training camp. And then the areas that don't have chiropractors, that's what we're doing, is building chiropractors who can travel there. So yeah, there's also a podcast coming out next week, I believe, The Artful Chiropractor, which is kind of like the voice of the training culture. And Kairos training culture is the module systems that will be coming out. And I know Dr. Brett Jones put together an amazing, precise, and powerful side posture adjusting module that's coming out. We've been holding we have over 300 videos of chiropractic performance training that we've had for years, just for the people who do the training camp. And now the need has gotten so large that we can't possibly do the training camps fast enough to keep up with the requests that we're getting for modules. And so we're starting to have this first module come out that will be for the greater chiropractic profession, just chiropractors, and the side posture, bringing in the effectiveness, the efficiency, and the sustainability. So
beautiful, man. Thank you so much for everything that you do.
Yeah, thanks so much, man.
Yeah,
Stoked.
my pleasure.